Hey, welcome back to the Podcasting Problem Solver. I'm Leah Bryant, certified growth coach, podcast producer, and your go-to guide for making podcasting way less complicated. So let me ask you something. Have you ever wanted to be consistent with your podcast, but every week it feels like you're fighting your calendar, your energy levels, and your never-ending to-do list? Well, same, friends, same. You are not alone. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. Because podcasting consistently isn't about willpower. It's about structure, routines, boundaries, and maybe treating your podcast like a workout for your brand. So today, I'm joined by the one and only and one of my amazing clients, Jordanna. And you know a thing or two about showing up with discipline and heart. So let me introduce her real quick before we get started. After 15 years as a corporate marketing executive and mom, Jordanna sold her home, quit her job, and went all in on coaching women after her own transformative health journey. She became an eating psychology coach, personal trainer, and nutrition coach so she could help other women reclaim their power just like she did. Now, as a co-founder of Get Sculpted, Jordanna helps women in their 40s and beyond lose weight, get strong, and eat guilt-free. She's the host of the Get Sculpted podcast, and today she's here to share how her background in fitness helps her stay consistent with her show, even when life gets chaotic. We'll talk time management, mindset, motivation, and what to do on those weeks when you'd really rather not hit record. Yes, friends, we all have those. So, whether you're just getting started or feeling a little off track, this episode is going to be for you. Jordanna, I am so excited. You're here as my first official guest.
Woohoo! Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait. This is going to be a great combo.
So good. So fun fact, this episode came about because I am actually a client or Jordanna's. We were talking about time management and how fitting and taking care of me mixes in all of this in the chaos of life, right? So I'm really excited for this. You're such a great example of what I call the podcasting athlete because you're someone who blends strategy with stamina. So let's rewind a bit. What made you and the other ladies, because there's three of you together, want to start your podcast, and how does it support your business?
Yeah, I love that. So first of all, thank you so much for having me on the pod.
Yes.
This is so fun. I love that we get to work together both in the podcasting space and on your fitness journey. And I love that this episode's going to really blend the two together and hopefully give everyone listening an opportunity to see kind of behind the scenes on how we get things done together. And really, the podcast was an idea that Mayor T and I wanted to bring to life over a year ago, something we talked about for probably over 6 months before we even reached out to you, because we were starting to obviously listen to podcasts. That's one of the fastest growing channels that people are searching out for long form content.
Yeah.
But even more so, we were noticing in the fitness space specifically that there was a lot of misinformation. Like, let's just call that what that is. It's lies. There's a lot of lies out there.
So true.
There's a lot of half-truths. There's a lot of extreme ideas in the fitness industry. And especially to our generation of women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, we have just decades of diet culture built up into our psyches.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you're in this diet culture dungeon and you need somebody to just pull you out. And so that was really the goal. We found a space in the fitness industry that needed filling, where we could dispel some myths, that we could have lighthearted conversations, that the three of us, which is also fairly unusual, having three of us as hosts, come together and really have these conversations. It's like you're joining our girl talk every week and being able to see behind the scenes of what do we believe? Why do we believe it? What are the best, shortest, fastest possible routes to get to your goals? And how to reframe this whole fitness thing once you hit your 40s and beyond. And that's really where the inspiration came from. And then we found you, and then life just got a whole lot easier on how to make it all happen.
That's so awesome. And I love that so much. And not just because we're working together and I make it easy, but because it connects so well to like my first pillar of my seamless framework strategy, right? You didn't just launch a show because everyone else is doing it. You knew your podcast could help not only educate, but attract aligned clients and deepen the trust with your audience. And honestly, that kind of clarity up front, it really saves you from burnout later.
Absolutely.
So let's talk fitness. How has your background in all the awesome certifications you have, the training, the nutrition, how has all of that shaped the way that you actually approach podcasting?
So first things first, in fitness and as a coach myself, you want to be able to do a couple of things when you're putting the best possible program together. And I find that my philosophy as a coach is when you figure out success in one area of your life, it becomes the blueprint to being successful in multiple areas of your life. And you can start to apply what you've learned, not the literal thing you've learned, the fitness piece, but the how you learned it,
yes.
The habits, the behaviors, the values, and the identity shift that you've made. That starts to bleed over into all the other areas of your life. So what I would say about fitness is that having a plan, a simple strategy-backed plan, is first and foremost. Second, setting up your environment for success is also mandatory. Number 3, having a community of people around you that are going to support you in staying accountable, that are going to help take a few things off your plate and maintain that momentum that you're building. And then the last piece is to be able, I think, to share those wins and being able to celebrate the successes along the way, because that's what's going to keep you consistent and that's what's going to keep you motivated when things start to slide in other places. So it's kind of interesting because the way I approach coaching, the way I approach my own fitness journey is exactly how I approach the podcast and being successful there too.
I love that so much. Just a big yes, standing ovation, yes. Because I think that that's such a good mindset shift for people who aren't correlating the two together. Because podcasting isn't just creative work, right? It's also about consistency, as we know, structure, and reps.
Yeah.
Really?
And it's a long-term game, right?
Exactly.
Like, you're not just going to go work out once, just like you're not going to pick up a podcast mic and drop a single podcast and be like, oh, I'm done. I'm number one.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to be like, oh, I've got millions of downloads, or oh, I've lost 100 pounds overnight. Yes, this is amazing.
That would be amazing, but it's not realistic.
Right, exactly. And I think that tying that in, because this leads into the execution part, which is the second part of my seamless framework, which is the routines, the tools, the boundaries you put in place to actually do the thing. And so even though I know the answer to this, I would love to know, do you treat your podcast like a workout? Do you have quote unquote recording days the same way that people have a leg day?
Absolutely. And I'd say that some might say, oh, you have 3 of you. This might be easier because you can spread the work. And I would say that there are complexities to having multiple hosts, and there's also efficiencies in having more hosts. But the approach, I think, can be maintained regardless of what your hosting situation looks like, if it's you or multiple or whatever. So yes, there is structure to that. And personally, this is very much embedded in just who I am and how my brain operates and how I like to manage my anxiety, quite frankly, is being prepared and working ahead of time. So yes. As you know, Leah, we operate in our podcast 1 to 2 months ahead of schedule. And the reason why we do that is because just like in your fitness journey, life is going to happen. And the more prepared you are, the easier it is to handle those bumps and twists and turns that are going to happen in your life and throw you off. If you're constantly playing catch up and trying to get the next episode out for, let's say, 2 or 3 days from now,
yes,
you're going to feel so stressed all the time. And so by pulling it back and preparing in advance, that's been one tool that we've used very successfully. The second part is having structure and a strategy that aligns with the seasons that we're in. Our business and fitness can be very seasonal. People have very specific mindsets going into, the new year, going into summer, back to school, and the holiday season. Being able to think ahead of what our clients and our communities are worried about, are frustrated with, are hearing in the market around those timeframes, give us ideas around content that we can be planning for well in advance. And then I would say that gives us room for the fun content that might be more spontaneous, that we're like, ooh, I have this amazing idea, or this just happened with my client, or this is happening in my life. Can we talk about it? Or I just saw this crazy diets start to be talked about, like we need to slot this in. And it allows you to be far more strategic with the messages you want to deliver. The third piece is that you want to block enough time to bulk record your podcast because, first of all, you're in the zone. That's what I find. I'm like in the podcasting zone. I've got like my podcast voice, which I think is like my normal voice, but there is something a little different around it.
Yeah.
My space is set up for quiet. I have, time to prepare mentally. And personally, just like when I go to the gym, there's like mini routines that I have. So anytime I do speaking, anytime, whether it's virtual or in person, I don't know what it is, but I always like to brush my teeth before.
I love that.
It is a super random thing, but I find that I smile more and I feel really fresh. So it brings out like a different level of confidence. And I think that people hear that when they are listening to the podcast. So bulk delivering your podcast is great. And then I think the other reason for that is just it allows you the breathing space between. Just like when I program for a client, there's going to be the on days where they're training. Let's say it's 2 upper days, 2 lower body days, or 3 full body days. The other days are off, meaning you have room for the rest of your life. If you're constantly trying to prep your content for recording for podcasts or editing it and approving it every single week, you're not leaving a whole lot of downtime for the other stuff you got to do in your business. So those would be some of the similarities I would find in podcasting versus fitness.
I love that so much. And specifically, like with batch recording and getting into the podcasting zone, you don't have to turn off portions of your brain to go from like mom brain to podcaster or work persona to podcaster. Like it's all just podcaster, right? And then not only that, like being able to block time away and be like, okay, I know that next month I'm recording these episodes for this month. You can also strategically plan out your content in a way, what are you promoting? How can I fit that into those episodes? Or maybe it's, okay, we're recording for October, so let's talk about like Halloween, all the yummy candy that's around, or like the holidays or the seasonal things or whatever else. And that really sets you up for success too, because then when you're promoting it, it just feels so natural.
It does.
And you sound natural. Like when you're recording on the fly, you aren't going to sound as confident, just like you said, right? Because you're scrambling, you're thinking about what you're going to say. And I'm sure the same thing could be said about fitness, right? Like if you don't have a plan and you're just going willy-nilly to whatever's on YouTube, you're not going to see the results that you want because you're just, for free for all doing whatever. So I love all of that. So I want to talk about like the real stuff for a second. What do you do on the weeks when you're off your rhythm? Like when motivation's low, life throws a curveball, because I'm going through this right now, so I'm going to love to hear her answer. What is your game plan for like tackling that?
So because we're organized, I actually have space for that downtime if I'm not feeling it.
I love that.
I believe truly that structure gives you freedom. And when you have that structure in place and you're following it most of the time, when you are having that off time, it's like you can have a moment to exhale and you don't feel like you're going to then be drowning from trying to exhale, in that moment. So that is why we bulk prep the podcast. And that is why even in my own calendar, I time block things because not that I need the time block time to have like a breakdown. It's like, okay, Thursday at 4 p.m., I have time for a breakdown. That is when I'll be emotional. But kind of, right? It's like, okay, I don't have time to deal with that right now, but I have time here to deal with that in the week. And it gives me those moments to exhale, to let go, to be messy. And the second part to that is that you don't have to be perfect. And I think that in fitness and in life, in social media, in podcasting, there's such an expectation to show up perfectly, to have the perfect backdrop, to have the perfect hair and makeup, even though you're talking and most people might not even see you, even though like you're supposed to have the perfect, most witty, most funny little clip to share. Like,
right.
It doesn't have to be that way. The messy middle is actually where a lot of things get done and a lot of progress is made. And my personal philosophy is to do it messy, to do it sad, to do it frustrated, to do it when I'm happy, to do it when I'd rather be doing something else. because that's how you actually build consistency and do the thing that you need to be doing most of the time. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And that's kind of the best part of life, because if we stop and we let ourselves sink too low into those lows, you're not living your life. You're pausing. And that's where most people get stuck. So if that's where any of you are as you're listening to this, like, this is the sign that you need someone in your corner in the area of life that you're getting stuck on. So if it's the podcast and you're trying to figure it out all by yourself, that's the time to get the support.
Same with your fitness journey, friends. And by the way, just mic drop, secret sauce, we're done. Episode over. Just kidding. But I love this because podcasting momentum isn't about like never missing, right? It's really about knowing how to recover without the guilt or the shame.
That's exactly it.
And all of that fits into the momentum piece of my seamless process. It's about building a rhythm that can bend without breaking, right? You're just rolling with the punches, as I say. So I don't know the answer to this, so this will be interesting. I think no, but we'll see. Do you have a personal story about a time an episode almost didn't happen, but you made it work?
Ooh, I would say that we were concerned, the three of us, of how we would navigate summer. You helped us with being able to pre-plan for this. So not that an episode wouldn't happen, but just how do we manage getting all that work done when, one of our hosts was going to be traveling for several weeks and we wanted to actually have some downtime in the summer. This was a planned time for us to have off from the preparation, from plugging away at the work. And what I found really helpful that you worked through with us was actually batch prepping more.
I love it.
We actually ended up pulling forward our recordings that we were going to do in the summer, doing them kind of closer together in 1 or 2 months leading up to that off time, and then being able to edit as we go and get things ready as we would in our regular schedule. So it wasn't really a question of like the episode wouldn't happen, even though that was an option for us. It was an option to say, you know what, let's pause recording over the summer. Let's take the time off. And that's an option anybody can take. We were still building momentum in building our audience. We're several months in. So we really wanted to keep that going in the summer when our clients and our community need us in their ear.
Yes.
And need that momentum and that support. So we ended up pulling forward those episodes. So those are two choices you always have. If an episode is almost not going to happen, you could sit back and be like, am I saving lives here? Is this is this episode going to make or break anything? Is the world going to fall apart if it doesn't happen? And if no, then maybe you push it out a week and that might be okay.
I love that so much. I'm probably going to say that to every response you have, and that's okay. Because I don't think that it's talked enough about. Like, you can be imperfect, you can miss an episode, all the things, but also behind the scenes hustle, right? Like, sometimes the best episodes may come out on messy days and last minute saves, but it also happens when you're strategic and you plan and you think about 2 steps forward. So I would love to know, do you have like a wellness tip or routine hack that you'd like to share with podcasters that could help them, maybe not just only with podcasting, but with their life in general?
Yeah, I would say the same thing I say to my clients is the more you can create that structure in your day, in your week, in your month, in your quarter, in your year, that's going to create the time and space for you to actually prioritize yourself in your business, in your life, in your podcast, in your fitness routine, with your family. And I think too often we are trained to give all of ourselves to everyone else without giving anything to ourselves in return, or filling our own cup first, putting our own life support on first.
Yes.
And we're expected to then kind of show up. And podcasting is a very give environment. You have to show up with your energy, with your presence, with your drive, with your mind, with your voice. And if you're drained and you're exhausted, that's going to come through. So the wellness and hack is take care of yourself, because that's going to help you be a better you, not just in your podcast, but in everything that you do. And so what does that mean to me as a fitness coach, as somebody who lives and breathes that every day is it is the basics. It's getting enough sleep. It's drinking enough water. It's moving your body throughout the day. We're meant to move. Like we're built to move and to get enough time away from the work and having that downtime, moving your body, walking, getting those breaks. And you'll see that as that structure starts to get into place, you'll actually have more fun with doing the podcast because it won't feel as overwhelming or as frustrating or as hard. It'll feel more fun. And that's what it should feel like.
And two, especially like when you're batch recording, don't just sit there for 4 hours and pump out all your episodes. Get up in between each episode. Even do some jumping jacks, right? Because that gets your endorphins going, your brain moving, get some water, take a minute. Because your brain can kind of like, if you sit there for hours and hours and hours, it just kind of, your energy just kind of dwindles away. But like if you get up, move around, get a snack if you need to, drink some water, all the things to make sure that you're ready to like hit the ground running. Not just with podcasting, but with anything. I love that. So it's so simple, but it's such a game changer because it works, right?
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I would love to know if you have any words of wisdom you wouldn't leave with the audience. I know this was totally unplanned and unscripted, so don't feel pressure.
Words of wisdom in fitness or for podcasting?
In fitness.
In fitness. Okay. Everybody has data these days, like you have a watch, you have a tracker, you've got a something. And it is so easy as a podcaster to just sit here all the time and research and map out your episodes and plan and run your business and do your work and sit. So my biggest piece of advice is to get up. You can stand while you record. Maybe you might not recommend that they walk on a walking pad while they record, but I have seen this.
I've seen it.
And if it fits your brand, then go for it. But I love walking meetings. I love standing. I love taking breaks because it's not just good for your body. It's also good for your mind and your ability to refocus. And it'll also help you with your fitness goals along the way too.
I love that. And bring your friends. I love that you're doing a walking challenge in the community right now with all the ladies, whoever gets the most steps. And I think it really adds another level of, yes, I'm going to go do this right now. Because, everybody loves a good competition, friendly competition. So bring your friends in and do that, whether it's a podcasting friend or a business friend or you're a significant other or whoever. Just bring them in with you along both your podcasting and fitness journey. I love it.
Exactly. I love a community challenge.
Yes. It's so good because the energy is just contagious, right?
Agreed.
Makes it easy. Jordanna, thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom and your realness. Your approach is such a beautiful blend of discipline and self-compassion. And I know listeners are going to walk away with so many ideas to make podcasting feel more doable. If you're listening and thinking, I need more of this energy in my podcast routine, well, go check out Jordanna, Tiana, and Marilyn's podcast, Get Sculpted. I will have all the links down below for you. Follow them on Instagram. They're amazing. And if you're trying to stay consistent, but feeling like podcasting keeps sliding down your to-do list, don't push harder. Get strategic. Go back to the seamless pillars, strategy, execution, attraction, and momentum, and build a system that works for you. So if this episode sparked something for you, let me know. DM me your biggest takeaway. Or better yet, send me a question you want answered in a future episode. The link is also below. You might just hear your name and podcast on the show. And hey, if you haven't already, tap follow on your podcast app so you don't miss what's coming next. And get on my newsletter for value-packed emails each week. Links also in the show notes. Until next time, my friends, stay consistent, stay curious, and keep it seamless.